welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Happy trade deadline day to everyone out there. Today is my favorite day of the sports calendar. It is the MLB trade deadline. All the trades are going down. We've had a ton today. We just had one break actually about 20 seconds ago. That was pretty significant. It involves the Kansas City Royals, so I'll be going over that. But yeah, just all the segments today will be about the trade deadline, going over Jorge Soler being traded, Yusei Kikuchi and Trevor Rogers being traded, Lane Thomas being traded, and then some other trades as well that were significant, but not significant enough to get their own segment. So before we go all that, and before we get into all the madness today, I do ask you to please like and follow the show. We do get our number of questions from viewers, so to ensure that your question does get read in the air, please use the link at gsmcpodcast.net. It really does help the show, and it really does mean a lot, so thank you so much for that. And let's get back into the show for today. All right, so, of course, today is going to be all about the trade deadline, July 30th or July 31st, usually whenever the trade deadline is. It is the 30th today, and I'm very excited to be going over all the trades, some that happened last night, some that happened today, and some that are going to be happening on stream as well. I do promise that whenever trades do happen on stream, I'll be letting you guys know about it and give my thoughts right up when it happens. So, because of that, as you can see, the first segment is going to be about Jorge Soler being traded to the Braves, which of course I am going to talk about. But let's take a little detour to that. We just had a pretty significant trade go down about a minute ago, announced by Jeff Passan, and it is that the Kansas City Royals are acquiring Lucas Erceg from the Oakland Athletics. Erceg was one of the biggest relief names on the market, has had a great season this year with Oakland, is under control for 4 or 5 more years, so a significant add to this Royals pen that desperately needed it. They already added Hunter Harvey before in the trade deadline circuit, from the Nationals, so the fact that they're now acquiring Lucas Erceg just continue to add to this bullpen. I really like this move. I think the Royals have a really good team this year, and adding to the bullpen only helps that. So, again, that's going to be happening. So, as much as I do have set segments to talk about today, we're going to be updating deals as they go on, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot. Deadline is going to be happening at 6. We'll be on here till around 4:30. So, again, everything that happens, I will be letting you know about. But, of course, the first segment we have to talk about today is the shocking trade that did go down last night. Jorge Soler getting traded from the San Francisco Giants back to the Atlanta Braves. Let's get into this. Now, the Giants have been one of the most interesting teams to follow in this trade deadline circuit. There's been a lot of rumors about what direction they'll be going, whether they're buying, whether they're selling, whether they're doing kind of both. And even with all those rumors, Jorge Soler was never really a name that had been discussed as a trade candidate. Soler was just signed to a big 3-year deal by the Giants. Was trying to break the 30 home run drought that they've had, where a player hasn't hit 30 home runs to their team in a pretty significant amount of time. Started off really rough, but has done much better as of recently. Has a pretty good weighted runs created plus now going into the season. He was really heating up and is figured to be a big part of this Giants team. And out of nowhere last night, Jeff Passan tweeted that they've traded him back to the Braves. Of course, he was with the Braves in 2021 when they did end up winning the World Series. And he not only just won a World Series with this Braves team, he won a World Series and won World Series MVP. So obviously he has a huge history there in Atlanta. Fans love him, is a big-time piece of that. And was a really shocking trade. Was, again, not someone I had on my radar just because he was on a 3-year deal and was in the first year of it. I never really think that someone who just got signed to a 3-year deal will be traded already, and he's had a pretty good season as well. So it really was shocking, but I want to go over this trade for Atlanta and San Francisco and kind of go on a rant as well about what the heck San Francisco is going to do at this deadline. I think I'm going to go over tomorrow as well, just kind of go on a rant if San Francisco does what I think they will do, which I'll talk about. But first, going over for this trade for Atlanta, yes, it was shocking, but I think when you dive into this a little more, I'll just give my personal thoughts on it. I'll be perfectly honest and say I'm not the biggest fan of this trade for Atlanta. I think that Jorge Soler is a really good player, and I think there's a lot to like about him. I just don't think he was the greatest fit for Atlanta, and I think there were a lot better players that would have been a better fit with this Braves team. Now, Soler is a very good hitter, 116 weighted runs created plus in this year, has a history with this Braves team, his teammates, this organization, so they know what they're getting. I'm sure Soler will have no problem at all adjusting to Atlanta and going back there. Also, something that was interesting that was brought up on MLB Network today about this trade is that Soler, just got settled into the West Coast time, kind of living on that as well, of course. Throughout his career, played in Kansas City, Miami, Chicago, and Atlanta. So maybe wasn't used to, being 3 hours away from East Coast time that you had there in Atlanta and Miami. So that could make some sense. But overall, I think that Soler is a really good player. I just don't think it's a great fit for them. The Braves needed an outfitter, yes. After the Acuna injury, you definitely needed an outfitter. Adam Duvall hasn't been the greatest, and Jared Kelenic has done not as great after a really nice start. So you have Michael Harris there in center field. You can live with a Kelenic Duvall platoon there out and left. You probably needed another corner outfielder. You're not going to have Marcell Ozuna play the field. So you would think maybe, okay, acquire a corner outfielder. Lane Thomas, that was someone I thought was a really fantastic fit with this Braves team. Plays really good defense, and hit lefties well, can hit righties well overall. He's a really good player. Wouldn't cost that much prospect-wise. I mean, would cost something, yes, but not significant amount. And, he gets traded to Cleveland last night, so obviously that was off the table, and that'll be, of course, my third segment, so I'll be going up for that. But, so instead of that, you trade for Soler, who, again, very good player, very good hitter, has a pretty reasonable contract, but hasn't played the field all year. Signed with the Giants to be a full-time DH. So you're now committing to putting Soler or Marcell Ozuna in the field, which is not good. I would assume it's going to be Soler, as Ozuna is a significantly worse fielder than Soler. At least Soler has a good arm and can kind of be something out there in the outfield. Ozuna really is nothing. He's just a bat. And hey, if Ozuna keeps hitting like he is, they don't really need him to play the field. But still, so I just don't love this fit for Atlanta. I think that for some reason, Alex Anthopoulos is obsessed with getting his old players back, meaning the same deal. They got Luke Jackson back, who, would you guess it, before he played for the Giants, played for the Braves. So I just don't understand the obsession with getting his own players back if you're an Alex Anthopoulos. Why don't you just re-sign them? I mean, you got Eddie Rosario back as well, Adam Duvall back. What are you going to trade for Jock Peterson from the Diamondbacks before 6 o'clock? I just don't understand why he did this deal. Again, Soler's a very good player, but I don't think he fits. Considering how well Ozuna's played this year, considering that you're going to probably have Soler play the field now, I just don't understand it. And going into next year as well, you have Kelenic under contract. You have Harris, you have Ozuna, and you have Acuna. That figures to be your 4 outfielders. So what are you going to do now? Are you going to trade Acuna? You're going to trade Soler? You're going to trade Kelenic? You're going to trade Michael Harris? You're going to trade Acuna? I just don't understand the move for Atlanta. Again, very good player. It's just... Again, also, you didn't give up any prospects in the deal, so I get that, yes, but it doesn't make a lot of sense for me to acquire Soler when he doesn't really have the greatest fit in this team. I just don't really think it was the best move, and yeah, I think that there were better moves that could have been made by Atlanta. I kind of think they're just getting, wiped up in the nostalgia of this, let's get the band back together for this 2021 World Series team. It's not how it works. So as much as Soler's a really good player and he's going to hit well, I just don't love the fit in this Braves team, and I think there are a lot of better deals that could have been done. So that is my thoughts on that. Let me know if you think I'm wrong about that or you think I'm crazy. But for the Giants, I don't really understand what they're doing. I understand why they traded Soler. You want to get his money off the books, fine. But you also just signed him 6 months ago. You slowed him that quickly after doing that well. I understand this is also the option of, you're now opening up significant at-bats for Luis Matos, for Heliot Ramos to be everyday players, and not really have to worry about someone peeping over their shoulder to take their spot. I understand that, and other players as well. But at the same time, you just signed him. He's 2.5 years left. Not a lot of money for a DH who's been a very consistently good hitter throughout his career. Was really good with Kansas City in the last year. Was good with Atlanta when he came there. Was good in Miami at that 3-year contract. Now has done solid after a rough start in San Francisco. So I just don't understand why the Giants decided to trade him. Now, it would make sense if the Giants are deciding to finally blow this team up, or to think, you know what, we have a lot of good players on this team who are on big contracts we don't see as part of our future. Let's trade these guys. Let's trade Mike Yastrzemski. Let's trade Mike Conforto, Wilmer Flores, Blake Snell, Alex Cobb, who they did end up trading, by the way, which will be part of one of my segments down until we talk about that as well. But still, I just don't understand why you're going half in with this. I feel like that's been the Giants' problem for a little while now. Going half in. They're not picking they're not picking a genuine direction. They're not picking that, we want to go full all in, we want to buy, we want to try to compete for a championship. They're not picking that, and they're not picking, this team is not it. We think we need to go into a rebuild, we think we need to retool, reset, whatever it is, let's sell off. They haven't gone fully into one of those things. They've always they've always really been half and half. They've always been kind of in both parks. And I don't think that's what they should be doing. That's my biggest gripe with a lot of teams nowadays. They just go in on two things. No, you have to go all in on something. That's how it should work. So I just don't like what the Giants are doing here. I think if you're going to trade Soler, you should go all in. Trade Snell. Trade Robbie Ray. Trade Yastrzemski. Trade Conforto. Trade Wilmer Flores. Trade these other guys as well. They were kind of in the trade Chapman. Do you know how much prospects you get for these guys right now, especially Snell? When the pitching market is as it is. I mean, we're going to talk about it in our next segment, but you saw what Houston got for Kikuchi. Like, imagine eating Snell's contract for this year and trading it to somewhere. The reigning Cy Young winner who just struck out 15 guys in his last start. You could get a franchise-changing prospect haulback. So I just don't like what the Giants are doing right now. I kind of think this is a lose-lose trade for both, and I don't really like it as well. So Giants are going to be very interested in watching the rest of this deadline, seeing what they do. Hopefully they go all in and sell. That's what I would like. And if not, believe me, I'll have a rant for them tomorrow. In Atlanta, I think still need a starting pitcher. Thought Frankie Montas is a really good fit. He's off the board. I think need a starting pitcher, and that's kind of it. But it will be interesting to see now what they do and both these teams do here at the deadline. So that is my first topic here, going over Jorge Soler being traded back to Atlanta. Pretty significant, surprising trade that happened last night. Figured this should be my first segment. Moving into our second segment here, which is going to be talking about Yusei Kikuchi and the Trevor Rosser trades. We'll be going over that. I'll give you the distinct reason why we bunched those two trades in together. So yeah, we'll be doing that, and we'll see you after the break. So thanks, and bye.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our second segment, which is going to be talking about a pair of pitcher trades here, Yusei Kikuchi and Trevor Rogers. But before we do that, I would like to ask you again to please like and follow the show. We do get a number of questions from viewers, so ensure that your question does get read in the air. We use the link at GSMC Podcast on debt. It really does help the show, and it really does mean a lot, so thank you so much for that. And let's get back into the show today. All right, so I said I was going to be updating news as it goes on. We did not get a trade over the break, I believe. But we did end up getting some other pitcher news that is not related to the deadline. Garrett Cole has been scratched from start today for general body fatigue, which is not good whatsoever for this Yankees team. He's already dealt with injuries, of course. He was out for the full first half with an arm injury. So it's good that it is an arm. It's good that it's not an arm injury, but still having him out for an injury at all is bad. We'll see if that affects their trade deadline plans at all. See if it makes them, see if it gives them more of a reason to acquire a starting pitcher. Of course, there's been a lot of rumors circulating that they want Jack Flaherty. Bob Nightingale said yesterday he thought they were close on Jack Flaherty. Obviously, that did not end up being the case, as he still has not been traded. And we're almost 2 hours here now to the deadline. So we'll be interested to see what happens with the Yankees. But now moving into their AL East compadre, the Toronto Blue Jays, I want to go over a trade they made and just go over the trade deadline and prices for him. So yesterday we had Yusei Kikuchi being traded from the Toronto Blue Jays to the Houston Astros. Pretty reasonable trade, something I think a lot of people expected. Blue Jays were selling off Kikuchi on a one-year deal. Astros needed some starting pitching. Pretty easy match. So, made a lot of sense. Now, what didn't make a lot of sense was the return that the Blue Jays got for Kikuchi. I was absolutely shocked when I saw this deal. I did not think I was reading it right. And yeah, I don't know what to say about it, so I'm going to go with it. So, for 1 year of for 2 months of Yusei Kikuchi, who has an ERA of almost 5, who in his past has been a very good pitcher. I want to get that clear. They could view the season as a outlier, and that he'll be much better in the second half. I would not disagree with that. I think that's a fair assumption. But for 2 months or so of Yusei Kikuchi, who has not done great this year, they gave up Jake Bloss, Joey Loperfido, and Will Wagner. That, to me, is an insane package to give up. Ludicrous. Like, I can't even imagine why they would do that. I understand you need a starting pitcher if you're the Astros. I completely understand that. But giving up Jake Bloss, a guy who has done really well filling in for your rotation this year, who immediately slots in as the Blue Jays, as a top 3 prospect in the Blue Jays organization. Joey Loperfido, who has been the Astros starting first baseman for most of the year after Jose Abreu was cut and has done really well there, who's young and has a lot of power potential. And then Will Wagner, a guy who could come up next year and become a starting piece of the Blue Jays team, who slots in around the top 20 prospect for this Jays team. Makes 0 sense. You want to trade that for maybe someone like Eric Fetty, who has a year of control, has done really well and is cheap. That's okay. I think it would still be a lot, but that's all right. Trading it for Yusei Kikuchi, who has an ERA of near 5, and again is only in a 1-year deal, is absolutely insane to me. So that was really crazy, and I just don't understand. I'm going to go to Trevor Rogers as well, but we just had 2 trades I wanted to talk about. Texas Rangers are acquiring Andrew Chafin from the Tigers. Really good move there for the Rangers, getting a solid lefty reliever in their pen. And the Royals are acquiring Paul DeJong from the White Sox. Good infield depth there. I think second base has been really a problem all year, trying to get a solid piece, and DeJong has had a really solid season with the division rival White Sox. So just 2 quick trades I wanted to talk about here that I saw on my phone pop up quickly, of course, and having that very handy with the deadline, of course, approaching. So the Kikuchi trade was obviously crazy, and the return was absolutely bonkers, and I was shocked. So we had heard the whole time that starting pitcher market was insane. Teams were going to ask for a lot. And we saw that with Kikuchi. Then it got even crazier today. The Marlins traded Trevor Rogers to the Orioles. Again, fine trade on paper. Marlins were shopping Trevor Rogers, a good controllable starting pitcher, who they were selling, of course, because they are selling. Orioles needed a good pitcher. Trevor Rogers comes to control as well. Really nice addition for next year as well. Solid. Then you see the package. They're getting back Kyle Stowers and Connor Norby. That's a lot. Like, Connor Norby is a fringe top 100 prospect who slots in immediately now as the starting second baseman or third baseman for this Marlins team for the significant future. I mean, the guy has 5+ years of control. And then you're also getting Kyle Stowers, who is a very solid outfield prospect who has also been a part of this Orioles team. Now, I want to make it clear that this isn't a horrific trade. Both Norby and Stowers were blocked, and it made a lot of sense for them to move on from them. But trading it for Trevor Rogers, a guy who's been nothing more than a back-end starter in his career since his rookie year, is kind of weird and kind of crazy. I understand that you may think Rogers still has a lot of potential left in his arm. You think that you could revamp his pitches, maybe make him a better player. But I feel like there were so many other options that the Orioles could have traded these guys for that they would have gotten a lot better. I mean, you could have traded that for Eric Fetty. I think the White Sox easily would have taken that. They would have been absolutely thrilled and ran to the phone. So the starting pitcher market is absolutely insane right now, and I think that's the reason why a lot of these teams that were expecting to trade for a starting pitcher have not. I mean, I've seen it with the Mets. The Mets desperately need a starting pitcher right now. I want to make that clear. Kodai Senga's out for the year. Christian Scott's going to be out for probably most of the year, if not all of it. And you need a starting pitcher. You don't want to have Tyler McGill be your 5 starter for the rest of the year. So they've, looked at some players. They've looked at Eric Fetty, Jack Flaherty. They looked at Kikuchi. They looked at Trevor Rogers. But the market has been so insane, they probably aren't going to acquire a starter now. And because of that, they probably have to move one of their best bullpen pieces, Jose Budo, back to the rotation. So this insane market right now, which the Orioles and Astros had to give into, is affecting a lot of other teams right now for their trade targets. So it's going to be really interesting to watch what teams don't trade for a starting pitcher because they don't want to give up an insane price for a good starting pitcher, but not a great one. And, they don't think it's worth it. Also, I want to mention something quickly about the Young trade, then I'll go back to my segment here. I did not realize the White Sox are actually playing the Royals right now, so he just is switching dugouts, which is pretty funny. I think the last time that happened was Christian Vasquez with the Astros and the Red Sox, so that's pretty nice. But, yeah, so nice little thing there, which would be interesting. We'll see how closely the Young can get in there to play, but again, really solid move by the Royals there. Now, I want to make it clear that even though these returns I think were absolutely insane, and I don't think either team did well in trading it. I mean, Miami did great. Toronto did in absolutely outstanding. I think both of these are really good moves. Just the player you're getting, not who you gave up. Astros needed another starter. Kikuchi is battle tested. is a very solid veteran. Yes, he hasn't pitched the greatest in the first half, but is due for some positive regression. And I think that he is going to end up being a very solid piece for this Astros team. And now you have a playoff rotation of Framber Valdez, Justin Verlander, Yusei Kikuchi, Ronald Blanco. I think that's really solid. You have Hunter Brown in there as well, who I just forgot. So that's 5 very good starting pitchers. So, I mean, with this lineup as it is, I don't think that's they're a team to take lightly anymore for the Astros. They're going for it. Yes, they gave up a lot. I think it was an insane price. They're probably going to regret it in the next 2 to 3 years. They don't win the World Series, but they could. And if you do, all that goes away. But still, Loperfido, Wagner, and Blas, I think will all be impact major league players. So trading them all for a year, for a few months of Yusei Kikuchi, who hasn't had the greatest season, I think is a little bit of an L there. For the Orioles, I like the Trevor Rogers trade. You now have a ton of controllable starting pitchers. I mean, going into next year, you now have Grayson Rodriguez, Zach Eflin, and Trevor Rogers as your 2, 3, and 4. Hopefully you keep Corbin Burns as your ace, and then you have a top 4 that is absolutely fantastic for the upcoming future. Rogers hasn't had the greatest season with Miami, but has done much better recently, and still has a lot of potential in an arm. I mean, he was an all-star in his rookie year, so if any organization can get the all-star part out of him, it is the Orioles. So I do like the trade. I like the trade more. As much as Norby and Sowers, I think, was an insane price to pay, I think that both of them were going to be blocked. And if you like Trevor Rogers this much, go ahead and get him and outbid people in a price that he can't even comprehend that you would think they would have to give up to Trevor Rogers. Overall, Miami has done absolutely fantastic this deadline right now. I love what they got back for A.J. Puck. They're apparently going to get back a ton for Tanner Scott whenever he is moved. I think that could be something that happens relatively soon. I love that they're getting back Norby and Stowers. I think both could be big parts of their team in the upcoming future. And Toronto, I love what they did here as well. You know, I still think they should go into a full rebuild, but now you can plug and Blas your rotation for next year if you want to compete. Loperfido can maybe be your starting first baseman or corner outfitter or DH. You also then I think that Will Wagner also could be a nice bench piece or a platoon bat next year as well. Of course, the son of Hall of Famer, hopefully soon future Hall of Famer Billy Wagner. So I like the trades for both Miami and Toronto. I think they did absolutely fantastic with these packages, and they took advantage of the seller's market and did a really, really good job. So props to them. So that is our second segment here, talking about Yusei Kikuchi to Houston and Trevor Rogers to Baltimore. Going into our third segment here, which is going to be talking about Lane Thomas and his trade to Cleveland. So we'll be going over that, and we'll see you after the break. So thanks, and bye.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our third segment, which is going to be talking about Lane Thomas and him being traded to Cleveland yesterday at the deadline, of course. But before you go into that, I'd like to ask you again to please like and follow the show. We do get a number of questions from viewers to ensure that your question does get read in the air. Please use the link, gsmcpodcast.net. It really does help the show, and it really does mean a lot. So thank you so much for that. And let's get back into the show for today. All right, so our third segment is going to Did not mean to press the break button there. Sorry about that. If you heard a weird audio clip, if you're just listening there on audio. But going back into this now, Lane Thomas and him being traded to Cleveland last night was a pretty significant trade. Thomas was one of the better outfitters I expected to go in this market. Did not really have Cleveland as the place he would go to. I had him going to Philly, which I stood by, even though I didn't think it was very likely, because they did acquire Austin Hayes and apparently to the Phillies. That was all they needed for their corner outfitter, which fair enough, I guess. But yeah, I think Lane Thomas was one of the better outfitters available in the market. Like I said, comes with a year control after this as well, so you also make him a part of your long-term future, most likely. And I think Cleveland getting him was a really nice job, and I want to talk about that and also what Washington could do and what their future looks like as well. So let's get into that. So first of all, thoughts on this trade for Cleveland? I think I really like it. I think that it was a really nice, solid move for this Cleveland team. I think that they needed another outfielder, especially a right-handed one, and getting one like Lane Thomas was really solid. I think they gave up a little much in the prospect department, which I'll go over after this when I'm talking about the part of it for Washington. But still, as we're seeing, this market is absolutely insane right now, and you are going to have to give up a lot of prospects if you want to get good players. Thomas already slots in right now as the right fielder for Cleveland starting today versus Detroit playing second now. And you have a really fantastic lineup if you're Cleveland. I mean, you now have a top four of Stephen Kwan, Lane Thomas, Jose Ramirez, Josh Naylor. I think that's as good as it gets in all of baseball. You have some other guys coming up as well. Andres Jimenez is there as well, who's solid. You have Bo Naylor as the catcher. You have Tyler Freeman, Ryan Roquico, Johnsky Noel, all these younger bats that you can kind of play around with and put them different places in the lineup. Kyle Manzardo, we'll see if he ever gets called up again. So overall, there's been a lot of good things happening in Cleveland. And I really like this trade for them. I think that it was a really nice job getting this corner outfielder, one of the better guys in the market. He's done really well this year. Contrary to a lot of people's beliefs, Thomas is not just a platoon bat. Thomas is a guy that can play against right-handers and be pretty well. I mean, since coming over from St. Louis to Washington in the John Lester trade a few deadlines ago himself, he's been a very good player. And again, I like this trade a lot for Cleveland. They have to go for it this year. They have a really, really good team. And Lane Thomas is not just a player that helps them this year. He also helps them next year as well, as I said. And when you're a year ahead of schedule like the Guardians might be, I think adding guys that not only help this year, but will help in the future as well, is very important to your core and maintaining this younger team that you have built. So I really like this trade a lot for Cleveland, and I think it was a really, really good addition. For Washington, it was an interesting trade. So first off, they got back Jose Tena, I really am pronouncing his name right, interesting prospect here from Cleveland. Going over him, he is 23 years old, and in AAA this year, he has 17 home runs in OPS of around 800, and has done really, really well. I think he'll get up to the major leagues this year with Washington, and I think that overall he could be a starter on this Washington team. Interesting. And we have a trade here, a big one. The Mets, my team, are acquiring Paul Blackburn from the Oakland A's. Really interesting. Wow. Okay, sorry. I just saw that pop up, and I'm a Mets fan, so I'm going to go over it. Wow. I got to see what the back here, but we got a starter. Wow. All right. Very interested to see what is going to be happening here. But, yeah, he is under contract for 2025 as well. And, yeah, I like this trade a lot. I'm going to go over it more, I think. But, yeah. Yeah, sorry, I got distracted by that. I'm a Mets fan. Sorry, I'm going to get distracted by my team making a trade. That's just what's going to happen. Got to deal with it. So, going back to Washington now, I think Tanya slots in as a starter for next year for the Washington team, can add into their really young core. I mean, again, I've talked a lot about Washington and their future, but they have a ton of good younger pieces for this team that are going to come up next year and be part of this great team. I mean, let's go over what you could have for now. Catcher, you have Keeper Ruiz. He's going to be there. Second base, you're going to have C.J. Abrams. He's going to be there. You are also going to be having now, let's say, Tanya slots in a third. In the outfield, you're going to have Robert Hassel, James Wood, Dylan Cruz, all these great kind of guys. So you have the ability to sign someone in free agency as well. You've sent money a lot. Quadra Corbin's contract's coming off the books as well. So Washington has a really nice future ahead of them, and I like that they were able to get back Tanya for Thomas, a guy who can really be a big piece of this team, not just next year, but in the upcoming future as well. Also, Mariners are acquiring JT Schwargo from the Marlins, a nice little reliever there for Miami. Nice there. Just wanted to say that again. Again, trades are flying in now. We're really seeing the deadline come, really work for it. So very interesting to see all that. But yeah, I like Washington, what they're doing. I thought it was interesting that they decided to trade Lane Thomas. I think that Thomas, again, with how good they could be next year, and I think they will be, you could have kept him and you could have said, this is a guy we want as our long-term piece because we want to be competitive next year in 2025, and he's under control for 2025. He's a very good player, but as I said, they have a lot of good outfield talent. So the fact is you can use one of those outfield talents and end up trading him now for a guy who can help you next year in a different position that you don't have as much depth for. So, very interesting that they did end up doing that. And I think they are still going to be competitive next year. And I will be very, very interesting. It will be very, very interesting now to see what is going to be happening with this Washington team and what their future looks like. So with Cleveland now, I like this. I like that trade a lot from yesterday. With 2 hours here to go with this deadline, it is 4:02. They already made a trade, which is Alex Cobb, acquiring him. I'll be going over that in my next segment, actually, so I'll be talking about that more clearly. But nice starting pitching get for them. I think they need to acquire one more starting pitcher and maybe another bat, and then they'll be good. I think this team has a chance to do something really special if they get it all together. And if I'm Cleveland, I'm not skimping on that. And I do think that overall, you have to do something. This team, again, there's a lot of good pieces in it. This fan base is waiting for them to be competitive. And it will be very, very interesting to see what is going to be happening with them and what their future looks like now with this Guardians team. Again, they're going to be very competitive, are going to be in a dogfight for this AL Central, with the Royals doing well, making moves, the Twins being one of the better teams in the AL since the end of April. So going to be a lot of interesting moves now in this AL Central and with this Guardians team when it gets up to 6 o'clock here, and it will be very, very fun to watch what happens. Moving into our fourth segment here now, which is going to be talking about some American League trades that I thought were significant, but not significant enough to get their own segments. I thought that Lane Thomas, Yusei Kikuchi, Trevor Robertson, and Jorge Soler were the main 4 trades that happened over this past 24 hours that I wanted to talk about. So we'll be talking about 4 trades here going from the American League and giving my thoughts on them. So yeah, going over that, and we'll see you after the break. So thanks, and bye.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our 4th segment, which is going to be talking about the American League and some trades that did happen there. Again, these were trades that I thought were significant, but not significant enough to really get their own segment and for me to fully talk about in great detail. So I wanted to, mention that quickly. But yeah, so we'll be going over here now some American League trades and just going over my thoughts on them. So first off, I wanted to go over Lucas Sims. He was traded to the Boston Red Sox in a deal today. Reds got back some minor pitcher who is pretty young, so that's nice for them. But for this deal, first going over for the Red Sox, I like it. I think that Sims has had a really nice, solid season for this Reds team, and the Reds had a lot of depth within their bullpen, specifically for right-handers, guys who were on 1 to 2 year deals, and they needed to go and trade from that to get some younger pieces, and that's exactly what they do here with this trade for the Red Sox. I think that, again, just getting out these guys, getting some prospects back in a season where you're not exactly going to win, and even if you were going to win, I think you still would have gone from that bullpen depth and traded some guys. So I think that overall, trading him is a really solid move there. Made a lot of sense, and I think is for the better of your future. Next going into for the Red Sox part of it, again, Sims has been a really solid reliever for this Reds team all year and has been consistent with them for a little while now as well. Sims has been a guy that has been very, very consistent with his pitches, been an overall good player, and I think that will add a lot to this Red Sox back into the bullpen. You, of course, have Kenley Jansen there as your closer, who's been very solid, and now being able to add in a guy like Lucas Sims, who probably comes in the 7th or 8th inning, pitches to 3 batters, just tries to get them out, I think as a quality back-end reliever is very solid. You didn't give up much for him, and the Red Sox right now are in a very interesting position with this trade, with this wild card positioning. They have a very good chance of making it to the wild card, which a lot of people did not expect from them at the start of the year. They have done really, really well this year, and they are being buyers at this deadline like they should be. They owe it to that fan base to try to be competitive. And I think adding Lucas Sims, while it's not a flashy get, it's not a crazy get, it's a very solid move, and I think they need to do more. I think if I'm them, I'm trying to get a right-handed bat here, which they did get in Danny Jansen, actually, so I'll reverse that statement. Very good. Danny Jansen, Cream Priester, both good moves, so I've liked what they've done so far. I think adding another reliever or potentially a starter could be a really good move here, and we'll be watching to see what happens here with the trade deadline. Next, we have their direct rival, the Yankees. They traded for Mark Leiter of the Cubs, one of the better relievers on the market, under control for a few more years as well. Leiter's had a breakout season with this Cubs team, and it was very obvious he was going to be traded. Yes, the Cubs bought for Isaac Paredes, but they're also trying to buy and sell kind of in the hybrid category, and you can sell good breakout relievers because if you're a team that consistently gets them, you know how to develop them, and it becomes a good piece here for this team. So I like the move a lot for this Cubs team, trading Leiter for some good solid prospects. No one crazy, but at the same time, I think that overall it is good to get something back for Leiter. Maybe you see something in them that they don't. Obviously, the Cubs and the Yankees have had a long trade history, have made a good amount of trades over the past few years. So, they traded for Anthony Rizzo, Scott F. Ross just for a few years ago at the deadline. So they actually know each other well. So getting Mark Leiter here, I like this move a lot. For the Yankees as well. They need another high leverage reliever, and the way Leiter has pitched this year, I do think he can end up being that for this Yankees team. Leiter has done very solid. He has years under control, and the Yankees do need some bullpen help right now, and adding Leiter in, I think, really helps you out. The next trade I'll talk about, they just subtract from their bullpen. So Leiter is a guy that can come in 7th or 8th inning, you feel very confident about, can even close sometimes. If Clay Holmes is, up to his usual shenanigans where he doesn't get the grit, it makes you very nervous with the saves. So I like this move a lot for the Yankees. Getting Mike Leiter had a very solid season, is of course also the nephew of former Yankee Al Leiter as well. So family ties there. So nice move by the Yankees team, nice move by the Cubs team for trying to get some prospects back for this good reliever. So nice move all around. Good to both sides. The Yankees also traded Caleb Ferguson to the Astros, which I thought was a fine trade. Ferguson, since being traded over from the Dodgers to the Yankees in the offseason, has really not lived up to standards and has become not great for this Yankees team. Kind of got phased out as well with the bullpen additions they made. So flipping him to Houston now, I think, is a very solid move. Houston also, maybe they see something in him that the Yankees and other teams don't. Just overall, I think the worst it is a good, solid lefty reliever depth move. Not sure how high leverage he'll be with the Astros team. Again, maybe they see something that they like about him. Of course, was a pretty solid reliever with the Dodgers before this year. So I think that overall, Ferguson is going to end up being a very solid depth piece for the Astros team. Really nothing more, just another guy they can add to their array of pen arms, and I like it. Again, maybe they see something in him that we don't. And just a nice solid move here by Houston to add some more depth for this Astros pen. Finally, the bigger trade, Alex Cobb to the Cleveland Guardians, happened, I'd say, around 30 to 45 minutes before I went on live. And yeah, I love this trade for Cleveland. Cobb has not pitched this year at all with San Francisco, but just had a rehab start, and a lot of scouts came away very impressed with the amount of stuff he has. Since coming over to San Francisco, Cobb has been a very, very solid, one of the most consistent starting pitchers in all of baseball. Not an all-star by any means or something like that, but just a guy you could count on for, a 3.3, 3.5 ERA. Pitched solid amount of innings, and really this is the first year that he's dealt with significant injuries. So when he is healthy, I think he's a very solid starting pitcher, very good veteran arm that can eat a lot of innings, become a very good piece for this Cleveland team. So I like this move a lot. I think they're betting on him being healthy and doing much better, of course, as he was hurt. But at the same time, I think it's a good bet with how consistent Cobb has been. I think that it's a very good bet for this Cleveland team. Cobb is also battle-tested for the playoffs, and with this young Guardians team that a lot of them haven't had significant playoff experience, adding someone like that, a veteran who has playoff experience in Alex Cobb, is a really, really solid, good move that I like a lot for this Cleveland team. And again, I think that it was a really nice starter addition. I think you might have to add one more for the Guardians, but right now, Bybee and Cobb at the top of that rotation is good. Maybe you get something out of Gavin Williams when he comes back from injury. Logan Allen does better, and hey, then you got a formidable starting rotation there. Maybe Tristan McKenzie wakes up and goes back to his old form, which is doubtful, but I like Tristan McKenzie a lot, so maybe that happens. Maybe Xavier Curry becomes a big part of your depth as well, so it'll be interesting to see there. But for this Giants team, it also made sense to move off Cobb. Again, hasn't pitched at all this year, and you're trying to kind of go under the tax with the money, which is also why you traded Soler. You now have a rotation for the rest of the year of Logan Webb, Blake Snell, Robbie Ray, Hayden Birdsong, and one other player that I'm forgetting. So as much as it does hurt a little bit to trade for Alex Cobb, it was kind of an insurance policy coming out from the injured list, you still do have some good pitchers here. Again, Kyle Harrison, who's I was forgetting. So still Webb, Snell, Robbie Ray, Kyle Harrison, and Hayden Birdsong is a very good, formidable starting rotation even without Cobb. Not sure what's happening with Jordan Hicks in his future as a starting pitcher, but that is also something that you could add as part of your depth as well. So we'll be interested to watch what the Giants do. Again, I think I'm going to have a full segment dedicated to tomorrow's show to just ranting about their trade deadline and how I do not agree with their decisions. So yeah, will be interesting to see what happens here with this Giants deadline, what happens here now till 6 o'clock, what moves they do end up making, and it will be very interesting to end up watching what the Giants decide, what the Guardians decide as well. And yeah, so going over the 4 trades I talked about here. Lucas Sims, very solid reliever, being traded to the Red Sox. Nice move for both sides. Same with Mark Latta to the Yankees. Very solid, controllable reliever that the Yankees are getting. Should be a formidable part of their bullpen for the next upcoming years or so. Caleb Ferguson being traded to the Astros. Nice, solid depth move. And of course, you just heard about Alex Cobb. I like this move a lot for Cleveland. I maybe would have gotten someone with more of a guarantee for starter, but with this market how it is, you don't want to give up a ton of prospects because that's what the price of everyone is. So being able to acquire Cobb, a guy who's been very good in his past for not many prospects, just kind of cash and a question mark of his availability, I think was a very solid move for where you are as a Guardians team. So going into our 5th and final segment here, talking about some National League trades. 5 trades I did want to talk about that were significant enough for me to talk about, but not for its own segment. If any trades break during the break and then segment 5 as well, I'll be sure to talk about them heading into the final leg of the show here and final leg of this year's trade deadline. So yeah, we'll be going over all that, and we'll see you after the break. So thanks and bye. And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our 5th and final segment for today, which is going to be talking about some National League trades that I did want to give my thoughts on and talk about some trades that I thought were significant, but not significant enough for really me to talk about them for 12 straight minutes in a segment. So I wanted to give my thoughts on these 5 trades here again that I thought were good, solid moves, but not big enough. So first off, the first trade I wanted to talk about is a trade that happened a little while ago, which was Josh Bell to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Bell was originally placed on waivers by the Marlins As much as you maybe think, oh, why would someone trade for him when they could just claim him off waivers? The thing is, you would have to take on Bell's full $16 million contract, which of course is less now, but taking on whatever it would be, maybe $4 or $5 million if I had to guess. I'm not sure what the math is with the baseball contract, but let's say $4 or $5 million this late in a year is pretty significant to a team's payroll because they don't really have that much of budget set aside, especially for a Diamondbacks team that has signed a lot of free agents over the past few years and is trying to be competitive. I mean, you're not the A's or the Rays or something, so trading for him allows them to get the Marlins to eat some of that contract. They are getting cash considerations for it, so really just a salary dump for Miami. And Bell makes some sense here for the Diamondbacks. Did have Christian Walker yesterday be pulled from a game because of oblique soreness. He is going to land on the IL, so I'd say he's probably going to be out around 2 or 3 weeks or so. So adding in Bell is a very good insurance policy for that. He slots in at first base immediately. Will probably hit the ball well with that switch hitting back there in the middle of that Diamondbacks lineup. So again, just is a very good fill-in bat for Christian Walker, who is going to be out for a little bit. And then when Walker does come back, I'm sure you can have Bell platoon at DH, play against righties or lefties. Can play first base when Walker needs a day off. Can be a really good late game pinch hitting option as well. So I think Bell just adds in a good insurance policy to Christian Walker in case his injury is a little more serious than expected. And even if it's not, he still is going to play for these 2 to 3 weeks whenever Walker is hurt. And again, adds in some nice hitting depth overall to this team as the season gets further, and is a nice late game pinch hitting option. So I like this move for the Diamondbacks. Didn't cost much for you as well, so I like this move a lot for them. Next, we have not a significant trade whatsoever, but I did want to talk about it. The Mets trading Josh Walker to the Pirates. Walker was someone that I had my eye on for a little while for this Mets organization for the past 2 to 3 years or so, as someone who I thought could be a really nice lefty reliever for them. Really never caught on. His stuff never played at the MLB level like I thought it would. His control always kind of faltered. So getting him a fresh start here in Pittsburgh makes a lot of sense. Just as nice depth for a Pirates team that needs some bullpen depth. He's a younger player, and I think is a solid addition to their core and that bullpen. Try to fix some of his pitches, try to fix some of his control, and I think you've got an okay relief pitcher on your hands if you're the Pirates. So nice little solid depth move there. Another Pirates move they got was Jalen Beeks of the Colorado Rockies. Beeks was a pretty good left-handed reliever available on this market. A guy who I think adds in a lot to this Pirates core. Adds in a lot to this Pirates bullpen that I said, of course, just before it needed some depth. So being able to get him, I think, is a really solid move. Has a very interesting windup, which is one of the things that teams like about Beeks a lot. Kind of hides the ball very good when he's pitching, like behind his back, and has a nice slider, has a nice changeup, has a good repertoire there, and I think, again, will add in some really solid depth to this Pirates team. Can make a spot start if you need him to. Can be a very good multi-inning lefty reliever for this team. Is again having a very solid season with Colorado, and it'll be very interesting to see what role does happen here with Beeks on this Pirates team. I think that he could add in a lot of depth and a lot of players to a lot of addition of what will happen here with this Pirates team. So yeah, it'll be very, very interesting to see what is going to happen here with him and the addition that he is going to be here to this Pittsburgh team. Next, we have Ahmed Rosario being traded back to the Dodgers. Of course, Rosario was traded to the Dodgers last deadline from the Guardians, signed a 1-year deal with the Rays this offseason, was pretty solid there, and then get traded back to the Dodgers at this deadline again. So obviously the Dodgers like something about him. Rosario's had a pretty solid season here with Tampa Bay, has been an above-average hitter with them, has played a lot of different positions with them. Can play second, short, third, left, center, right. He's a very good utility man. That's really what he's become throughout later in his career now. I think that's really what he always could have become with this, watching him back with the Mets. Of course, I'm a Mets fan. He was a top prospect with us a little while ago, a few years ago, I should say, and never really latched on to being the starting shortstop I thought he could be. But they always talked about him moving to different positions because of the athleticism he has, and now him becoming a very solid player who can play a lot of different positions, be a very good utility man for a team, I think makes a lot of sense. I looked at him as kind of a cheaper Isaiah Kiner-Falefa to a lot of teams, a utility man that plays a lot of different positions and can hit lefties well, can hit righties decently, and just can play a good spot start whenever needed. Dodgers, of course, like their versatility, adding in Tommy Edman yesterday, adding in Ahmed Rosario now, two very, versatile players to this lineup. Mookie Betts also has some versatility as well. I mean, he's played center, left, right, second, short throughout his time with the Dodgers, which for a player of his superstar caliber you wouldn't really expect. But still, overall, I think that it's a very solid addition for this Dodgers team. Really didn't cost much to get him, and adding a guy who has familiarity there and playing in Los Angeles, who can make a start whenever you need him to, can play shortstop there while Edman trying to recover from his injury, while Betts is trying to recover from his injury as well, I think is a really nice addition here to this Dodgers team. Also, Miguel Rojas is hurt as well. Nick Ahmed, do you really want to be starting him consistently in 2024? I think not. So I think Ahmed overall is a very solid addition to this Dodgers team. Really nice addition here to them, and I like them a lot to be able to get him as a kind of a buy low guy. So there we go. Final trade we have here is a pretty big one, actually. Frankie Montas going from the Cincinnati Reds to the Milwaukee Brewers. Montas was a big signing by this Reds team, 1-year deal after some not great seasons with the Yankees the past 2 years. Reds signed him as kind of a buy low option. I raved a lot about it in the offseason when I was here doing this podcast, that I really liked this move for the Reds. And unfortunately, it did not really work out well. He started off doing pretty well for this Reds team, but had some injuries, problems, and just got a little worse as the season went on. So really did not end up being a great move for this Reds team. Signed with a big contract, has a big option for next year, which I'm sure will not be picked up by the Brewers unless he does some insane pitching there, which I don't think he will. Has an ERA close to 5. Brewers also give a good haul for him back, giving up Joey Wiemer, one of their top prospects from a few years ago. Hasn't done the best one in the MLB, but I still think has a lot of potential. And kind of crazy trading him for a guy who you're going to have for 2 months that has an ERA close to 5. It was also a ton of injury history. So again, just another reason why this pitching market has been absolutely insane with prices. So overall, I think just on paper, it's a solid move for this Brewers team. They desperately needed starting pitching, and being able to add in Frankie Montas, a veteran guy who can eat innings to a high degree, can be a very solid veteran addition to this Brewers team, I think is good. I think the price was high. I think there were better plays you've gone with Joey Wiemer headlining it, a guy who I think could project to be a starting player in the MLB. Maybe not to a high degree, but still a good starting player. So I think was not a great package they gave up for the Brewers, but I like the move of Montas. And hey, what team has been happy giving up a starting package here for overall right now for this year's deadline? The Mets actually traded Cade Morris to the A's for Paul Blackburn. And so I'll be going over that quickly with this NL trade segment. Of course, it fits in. Blackburn, I'm sure, will be just a good, solid depth addition to this Mets team. Can be a guy that starts as your number 5 man. Could be a swingman type guy. Just came back from injuries, under control for 2025 as well. So I think that Paul Blackburn is just a very solid addition to this Mets team. They needed some pitching depth to get a buy low option here. Obviously did not want to give up any significant prospects for the starters available at this deadline. So I like this move, and I think it was really solid by this Mets team. So, I would like to say that is our show for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching this trade deadline special. I'll be rushing down and watching MLB Network and seeing all the moves that happen in the next few hours or so. We'll be going over all the moves that I did not catch on this stream tomorrow and going over all that, and then going over trade deadline grades, power rankings, all that kind of stuff as the weeks now go from the trade deadline. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram for more content and updates. Make sure to subscribe to the notification bell to this channel to now get notified when I upload, when all the other great content creators on this channel do. We'll see what baseball shows us tomorrow. Have a fun time watching the rest of the deadline, guys, and thank you so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow on Wednesday. Thanks, guys, and bye.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.